we are in the midst of a pandemic, lots of people are still working from home. Every part of our lives are more reliant on the internet than ever before. So how detrimental could an aggressive cyber attack be right now?
Thanks, Charlotte. That's a great question. We really are now in a different situation to normal, and we depend on it. So a cyber attack could be quite devastating. I think probably even more devastating is the fact that the current attacks are almost a form of bullying. They're not really designed at causing immediate disruption. They're more, it seems to me, designed to announce their presence and the fact that we are vulnerable in this way.
Well, that's interesting you say that, because one of my questions was, these attacks, are they not having, agencies and different parts of state or government aren't falling to their knees with these attacks? Is that because our security is good enough, or is that because the attacks haven't been aggressive enough to have that impact?
That's a really good question too. It's certainly not that our security is good enough. If anything, these attacks are showing great gaping gaps in our security. The attacks are quite simple. They're against things that have been known about for a long time and that the government's been advising people to fix for a long time. And it's just showing us that clearly at all levels of government and in industry and at everyday people like you and me, we really haven't fixed. So no, these attacks, if anything, are showing us that we are vulnerable and this is important to fix. And I think the reason we haven't seen bad things happening is a lot of these attacks are just about gaining data. They're not about doing things. They're sort of setting up, getting ready to do things, and sort of announcing their capability to be able to do things. They really are a form of bullying, I think, in a way.
Can you expand on that? So what do you mean? What could they be doing there? It seems to be at the moment, from your perspective, they're kind of asserting their authority or saying we are here and we do have the capabilities to do this.
Yeah.
But what could they do? What could they be capable of?
Well, that's interesting. All our finance is online now, so financial systems are vulnerable to any disruption or malicious change of data on the internet. So that's moving money. That's about as big as you can get. Our factories and systems are connected. Our elections, even, we've seen election interference. And really, this is a form of foreign interference we're seeing now. Thank heavens the government's been quite good in not making all our elections fully online, but you can see how easy it would be to disrupt the whole democratic process through, we've seen that in other countries, through misinformation or denial of service, or if we were online for our elections, even attacking the elections themselves.
Do you think we're taking cybersecurity seriously enough here at both the government level and also in the private sector?
No. And it makes sense that we're not. It's a bit like our preparation for COVID. Until something happens, it's invisible. There's risk. People talk about the risk, but, there's many risks in life and we've only got limited time and resources. And in a way, I think these attacks are quite a good wake-up call for us all, and that we should be taking things more seriously. And this is actually because one day this won't be an innocent type thing like now. One day this will be war.
Yeah,
and we should be prepared for that.
It will be the full thing. So
exactly.
What's an example of a country that does have good cybersecurity, and how far off are we from having security like that? And what would we need to do? It would obviously cost millions of dollars of investment.
Yeah. And again, a great question, because I know of no country that has good cybersecurity. It really is like the gold rush now for the bad guys. Everyone is open. Every country has pockets of good things, but as we're seeing from these attacks, to be safe, you can't just be safe in one spot. You have to be safe everywhere. It's like there's no point in locking your front door if you're leaving the back door open. And everywhere includes citizens like you and me. So a lot of these attacks we're seeing now that are being reported by the Australian Cybersecurity Centre, and credit to them for the great reporting they're doing. A lot of these attacks where the bad guys can't get in through technical measures, they're just tricking people. And they're tricking people not necessarily at senior levels. They're sending emails and false documents and things to normal people like you and me. And with us all working at home, of course, we're even outside corporate firewalls. We're even more vulnerable than normal. So I think a proper defense is A, defending companies and institutions at a technical central level, but B, is increasing the awareness of everyone in the community about what risks we're exposed to and sensible ways of dealing with them.
So I was at a press conference earlier this week that was a state government press conference where they said that there have been cyber attacks, but they refused to say what agencies or what services had been attacked. and they really didn't give much detail. Then Scott Morrison yesterday stood up and said a very similar thing. He said, we're not under attack today. It's just been a consistent thing over the past few months, and they really wouldn't reveal much information. Is there a reason for that, or should they be being more transparent with us?
Again, these are all great questions. Well done. I think there is a reason for it.
Do you think that if they say, yes, it's this particular agency that they're going for, then are they revealing to the public that that's a weak spot?
I think the bad guys already know where the weak spots are. And to be honest, it's most agencies. The Auditor General and the auditors in the individual states have published damning reports of government agencies for many years now, identifying the worst performing ones. But it's sort of common knowledge and everyone knows. So I don't think it's keeping it secret. I think it's just trying to stop alarm, and that's a good thing, because this could become sensational. But yeah, I do like transparency. I think probably the reason that these organizations have been able to be so lax in cybersecurity for so long is that no one is being held accountable and there isn't visibility. But it would be bad to pick one or two scapegoats, because I think it's pretty much every organization, not just the ATO, for example, is often singled out.
Yeah, well, I saw this week the New South Wales government has invested, I think, $240 million in cybersecurity, which is at least a step in the right direction. You would think that other states and levels of government would have to follow suit. If you're at home, if you're watching this, if you as a person are nervous about your data not being protected, or if you have a company that you're worried about not being protected enough, what should we be doing?
Yeah. So for individuals, I think for all of us, we need to increase our understanding. So get some cybersecurity education, though that's a bit tricky to do. But I do think that's really critical. It's now like seatbelts and sunscreen. It's something that we all need to know and understand because it affects us all directly. Probably the simplest things, if you just wanted some quick tips from people at home, and that things that would have been largely effective in many of these attacks to protect, would be updates. Turn on your updates, automatically update everything. So if your phone says, I've got a new version, would you like to install it? Sometimes you get an option, tell me tomorrow or do it now. Never click the tell me tomorrow, say do it now. So updates is one. And probably the second most important thing to do is to be suspicious, because people are trying to trick you. Most of the access is through tricking. So whenever if anyone sends you an email, and they can pretend to be anyone you know, so just because it's from someone you know, it doesn't matter. Don't open an attachment and never click on a link in an email. And actually, I've seen funny things. I've seen organizations now mailing out, telling their customers, oh, don't worry, everything's okay. We're cyber secure in this latest alarm. Don't be worried. Here's a link you can click on to find out more.
Oh, gosh.
That's the most ridiculous thing.
That does seem ridiculous.
Just don't put links in emails.
It's so funny because my mum and my dad, they sometimes send me their email and they say to me, oh, I don't know if this is a spam email or not. And just by looking at it, it's something that obviously I've grown up with, being on computers and on technology. I can look at it. I can look at the font. I can look at the email. There are all of these things. I'm like, oh, no, that's spam. But trying to explain to them why it looks like spam is really difficult.
That's right. That's cyber education, isn't it? Cyber literacy. And I think the older generation is being looked after by the younger generation. And we in turn are probably being looked after by our children. So I do think, a lot of people are talking about the importance to do cyber education at schools.
Yes.
I think that's really important. Can I say one point, though, about your parents' emails?
Yes.
Those emails that go to everyone that you can detect are wrong, we call them phishing emails, and they work by being sent to a large number of people, and a few gullible people click on them. Right. And they can lull us into a false sense of security because we can easily spot they're bad. But the emails that are being used by the attackers here aren't general phishing emails. They're what we call spear phishing emails, which are targeted at a particular person. And if it was targeted at you or me, they're not going to have font problems, that they're going to be so good. And cyber attackers that I talk to, I always ask, how often are your phishing campaigns successful? And the answer is normally always.
Okay. Well, clearly I'm getting a bit cocky.